The first thing which, whenever anyone talks of railways, the first thing which comes to mind, as was introduced, that it's a mammoth organization. And there are thousands of statistics available to show how many kilometers, how many people. We carry as many people as the whole population of Australia every day. And lots of us, lots of this. I mean, that is something which you can always get out of just Googling. For statistics, you just Google and you get this information. But railways is not just statistics. It is not just to be identified as the largest employer or the biggest transporter. Railways is an institution in itself, and there is so much which goes on, which unfortunately not many people ever get to see. I mean, get to see or even know. See, what happens in the railways is, the expectations out of the organization is huge. I mean, the minute you say railways, we have got so used to a culture of freebies, a culture where you pay a pittance and expect the moon. So what happens is, railways, because it is in the government sector, it is not in the private sector, everybody expects that just paying a 5 rupee and buying a platform ticket entitles them to absolute world-class facilities, a world-class transportation, a world-class travel experience. Nothing wrong. All of us would expect that. You would expect your money to go. But the problem is, today, there is such a gap between supply and demand. I mean, the demand is huge. We carry so many passengers every day. I mean, again, statistics are almost... but what happens is, by its very way of working, the railways is a very different organization from probably the road sector. I've been asked this question so many times. When there is a crowd, they just introduce 10 more buses on that route, and we all leaving at 11, 11, 5, 11, 10. Why can't you do it in the railways? In the railways, because for us, the train travels on rails, and safety becomes of paramount importance. We cannot do what is done in the road, that is just keep pushing out trains. So as a result, what happens is, as it is, our basic assets are expensive. It takes about 5 crores, this is minus land acquisition if you have to acquire land, to lay 1 kilometer of track. And the cost is rising every day. And in such a thing, for us, for people to say, I mean, like I have dealt with the public representations from the politicians, the people's representatives, everybody, would say that everyone wants a train from their hometown to every part of the country. Legitimate expectations if you look at it. But then the problem is, there is an internal issue also in this, is that how do we manage to meet the expectations of the public with limited resources? That becomes the bottom line. See, everyone wants a train, and then if you look at it from the whole economic model, initially we were entirely getting our money from the government of India for all our assets, entirely. And then what happened is, it's a sort of 50-50. Some of it we were subsidized, the rest of it we earned out of it. But later on, as it went on, today we are almost 100% dependent on our own resources. So that's why when the Honorable Minister says that we are going to the LIC for asking for money, we are going to the banks for asking for money, it is because today we do not get anything from the government of India, not even land. I mean, there was a time when we were given land, even land doesn't come to us. So there is a dichotomy today between what we want to do and what we can do. We want to be a commercial organization because the government has told us that we cannot subsidize, you are commercial, you earn, so you take care of yourself. But today I cannot think of myself as a purely commercial organization, because again I am expected to fulfill certain social obligations. I am expected to run trains in the northeast sector, which is underdeveloped now. I am expected, we have just put a train to Jammu and Kashmir, which was hitherto unconnected. We are supposed to go into tiny towns, whether it is towns of temple towns or whatever, small villages, we are supposed to connect the country. Fair enough. I mean, in which case, where do I go for the money? The government has said very clearly, okay, we tried, joint ventures, special purpose vehicles, everything. But what happens in such an issue is, when any other entity comes to us, like in the private sector, the first question they ask, like any prudent commercial organization will, is what is in it for me? Now, unless they get a kind of return on their investment, they do not come to us. So what happens today? We are very proud of the fact we have a lot of joint ventures, SPVs and bilateral agreements for investment. But these are happening mostly in places where there is an immediate payback. And the payback comes, unfortunately, only in terms of freight movement as against a passenger movement. So whatever money we have, we are now trying to put it, because we cannot not carry the person who pays 100 rupees for a season ticket and gets to travel 28 days in a month. We cannot say no to him because again we are an organization with a social objective. So it is under these constraints that what we try to do is stretch our rupee to the maximum we can. And again, as I told you, since we cannot afford to tell the people that I will not have a new line or I will not do a gauge conversion to Siliguri because it's not worth my while. I will not go into the remote corners of Gujarat because the cost of laying that track far outweighs what I will earn out of it. Since I cannot do that, today we try to balance. Now when it comes to, just to give you an idea, for every passenger kilometer, we are losing 430 rupees. For every passenger kilometer. For every freight kilometer, we are earning 470 rupees. So the difference between 430 which we are losing in a passenger carrying kilometer, we are subsidizing it from what we earn through freight. And then again, the other aspect is, since again we are in the government sector, we do not have the flexibility of say the road sector. Now what happens, the minute the diesel price goes up, the road sector will immediately put up the rates. And similarly, the minute the diesel price comes down, they also bring it down almost immediately. The railways, being a mammoth organization and a centralized organization, we cannot react as fast. So as a result, there will be times when the diesel price has gone up, people find railways cheaper. But when the diesel price comes down, so there are so many issues. Where do we pitch ourselves? Where do we kind of really align ourselves? What are we? Are we a carrier of passengers or are we a carrier of freight? Now if we are a carrier of freight, unfortunately we are losing out to the road sector because we are not as versatile. We are not able to give the door-to-door delivery to the same extent that the road sector can. If you're saying you're a carrier of passengers, then a passenger does not give me enough money to make it worth my while. Now we have tried within the passenger segment itself to try and reduce the subsidy. We have tried, I think you will be hearing about the Suvidha trains, the Tatkal trains, where we have tried to hike up certain premium services in order to get my sleeper class passenger. Today, by the way, the sleeper rate per kilometer is the cheapest in the world. The basic Janta travel is the cheapest in the world. So we are trying to do a lot of things, but then as that popular ad goes, dil mange more, people keep wanting more and more and more. We ourselves want to do more. We see new technology, we want to introduce it. But the question is, how do we go for these kind of projects? See, any project for us will not be taken up as a viable project unless the rate of return is 16%. Now, if you look at a project which is dependent on passenger movement alone, the rate of return is sometimes -3%. But still you will find we will be laying those tracks. Because again, that is the expectation and that is what we are mandated to do. So it's in this kind of a thing. So sometimes what happens is, there is really quite real criticism People see dirty stations. People see crowded trains. People see toilets and say, why can't you do more? Yes, we do want to do more. But when you, for example, when you pack in 75 people officially and about 100 people unofficially into one sleeper class coach, and you have 4 toilets, and a person travels for almost 36 hours, how much can you keep it clean? How many more people can you put to clean it? These are the aspects. Same way, we clean the platform. A young man just walking across will just eat a cup of noodles and just throw the packet on the platform and walk away. Swachh Bharat campaign was very effective because we suddenly saw a lot of improvement. But then there is a long way to go. So we are forever in this kind of dichotomy as to what exactly do we do. How do we kind of fulfill the aspirations of all the sections? We have what we call the operation ratio. Now that is our expenditure vis-a-vis the earnings. Now the Indian Railway operation ratio is 126. That means we earn 126 rupees for every 100 rupees which we spend. Southern Railway, for example, the operation ratio is 91. We spend 100 rupees but we earn only 91 rupees because, again, as I told you, we are a predominantly passenger oriented railway. We do not have much of loading because we do not have mines, we do not have any ore, we do not have coal, we do not have a steel plant except Salem steel plant, which is a tiny. See, we do not have all these things in the south. So we are not a freight railway, we are a passenger railway. And today we earn 91 rupees, which is mainly comes out of passenger. More than 50% comes out of, what 50%? I think 70% comes out of passenger. And we are spending 100 rupees because my staff cost is fixed and all my assets, whatever is required by any other part of the country to run these trains, I require all the assets. There is a fallacy that you provide world-class service and people are willing to pay. I have been in the system for 29 years and let me tell you, people are not willing to pay. People want freebies. People want everything to be given. Every year we are adding more and more categories to concessions. Rightly so, okay, you give freedom fighters concession, you give students concession. But then if you keep on taking away concession, what happens? It's people like you and me, if you have to buy a ticket, you will be paying probably 1.5 times the cost of service because a concession is being given to somebody else to travel, including the railway staff. We ourselves get our passes and all these things, but because of this concession, what is happening is the others are paying more. And the point is, now if you travel by first AC, you expect the kind of level of service which probably you will get by air, because sometimes first AC and air fares are quite comparable, and first AC sometimes is even costlier. But the problem is, a first AC coach will have 24 people in it, and the train itself has more than 1,000 people. So the facilities which are there for the entire 1,000 is also to be shared by the first AC except within that compartment. So this is where we are losing, in the perception of people, we lose a lot of image, we lose a lot of this thing, because the kind of people we cater to are from the persons who want world-class service to the person who doesn't mind standing or sitting in the toilet for 48 hours. I mean, I don't know, this is one of the most heart-wrenching sights I have seen. Like, this is a train, I was at, I think, Trichur station, train going to Guwahati, the labor, it was before a holiday, the labor were getting in a general compartment which can normally hold about 70 people. There were something like 300 people who thronged in, and there were people who went into the toilets, and the shoulder was against one wall of the toilet and the legs were against the other wall, because to make place for more people to come. And I was told that this is a way they travel for 48 hours, they travel to get home to Assam. I mean, that is a kind of one segment of people, and the other segment you have, in the whole coach, you have 24 people traveling. So this is the kind of dichotomy we are dealing with. Then again, the most common thing is the comparison with China. People are saying China started much later, but they have got 1.5 times the assets we have. That is one of the most unfair comparisons you can do. I mean, you can't compare apples and oranges except to say that both of them are fruit. The fact remains, in China, the land, everything is given free of cost. There are no questions asked. They are planning for 20 years, 30 years into the future. They are not asked to account for the fact that a high-speed train has only 20% occupation. They are very clear of the fact, if not today, we will get it tomorrow. We are accounting for the fact from day one. If a train goes down below 70% occupation, we are answering to the railway board, to the parliament, for the fact why is it going. At the same time, if you want to shut the train down, we are not allowed to shut the train down. I have trains which run at 20% occupation, but for the reasons of connectivity, we cannot shut down those trains. We have to continue. Mind you, the cost for running those trains remains the same. Whether I carry 200 people or I carry 1,000 people, the cost remains the same. But I am forced to run those trains because it is connecting a backward area, and there are people who depend only on the train to reach there. To run any of our trains, if you want, we are talking about bullet trains, we are talking about high-speed corridors, we are talking about various things. To run any of these, the investment we may need to make is in our infrastructure. We need better tracks, we need better coaches, better wagons, we need higher horsepower locomotives, we need all these things, and these are not cheap assets to get. And just by raising the fares, whether it's of second AC or third AC or first AC, even by 20%, we are going to go nowhere in that. Unless we are able to generate and to have enough of things for our freight. Freight is the only earner, and today, if we go on like this, if we go on cross-subsidizing, we are beginning to kill the golden goose, but we will just complete the act very, very efficiently in a very short time if we carry on like this. I mean, I'm not sounding big. The other issue also is, like as I told you, we cannot run trains one after the other. So I just thought, like, what as I told you, how to make the rupee go the maximum. See, normally when we started off running trains, in a section, we call it a section, that is between, a block section is between two stations, you could run only one train. So this train will go from, see, in what we call the up direction to the point B. Then only after it reaches point B will a train go into point A. From there, we call that a one train only system. From there we graduated to the single line working system. I'll just show you the diagrams if it is there on that. Single line working system, where on a track we broke up a section and had a station in between. We created what you call the loop line in a station. So anyway, this is there, you know. Can you just go back? Can you go to the next one? No, the one. No, I think I will locate it. I'll show it to you later when I get to it. Then we created a loop line, and then what did we sent in one direction from the left, stopped it in the loop line, and then while we did that, we started another train from the right side. So when this passed, we pushed that. So we called it, we were able to have two trains in the section at the same time. Then what did we do? We had double line. That is the, we had the doubling, what we call the doubling. We ran two lines, each one is, unidirectional. So you can push in one train after the other. Even there, sometimes you had the faster trains running, so you need to, keep the slow train on one side. So the loop lines were used to keep the slow train. Then what we did was, we changed the signal. Because we cannot keep investing on stations. Because every stoppage for me in a station it adds 25 minutes to my overall running time, regardless of where it is. So, especially when our good friends from Kerala keep asking, because Kerala being so densely populated, everybody keeps asking for more and more stations. Almost at every 5 kilometers they want, 4 kilometers they want a station. But it is adding 25 minutes to my overall time. It's okay, 25 minutes may not be big if you're traveling for 36 hours, you can afford it. But if you're traveling for 5 hours, you add 25 minutes, you just see the percentage, it just throws your traveling time off by. So this is how we did. Then we have what we call the the block huts or block signaling. There will be no person there, it will only be a signal which will this thing at breaking the block section. So the minute it passes the signal, I can send in another train behind it. So that is how, even though technically speaking a capacity of a section should only be a maximum of 100, we run at in some places at 126% capacity utilization by doing this. Then what we did was, we added further, we tried to improve the capacity by adding the automatic section. Normally in any signal, you will have the proceed, which is the green, you will have the caution, which is the yellow, and red, which is danger or stop. We added another yellow, which we call attention. So what happens is, when a driver, loco driver sees the green, he can go at whatever is the maximum permissible speed in that section. Say 80 kilometers. When he sees, suppose he sees caution, that is a single yellow, he will say he will be prepared to stop. The next signal would normally be red. So he will start slowing down. Once he passes the signal at yellow, prepare to stop at the next signal. If he sees a double yellow, he will reduce his speed. But the next signal may be a caution, that is maybe a single yellow, or it could also be a green. So to that extent, he need not bring down his speed to stop the train. So we call this the automatic section. Here there is no requirement of any person who needs to do anything. The signals automatically, the minute we have the signal and we have what we call an adequate distance beyond it, which is normally 180 meters. The minute the train crosses those 180 meters, the aspect of the signal behind the train will keep changing and will go right back. So the one immediately behind it will change to attention, then caution, then attention, then green. So that's the way it goes. So these are the few things. Then we try to quicken the train operations by introducing this train protection system, because again, safety. So what happens is, this is a device which takes a signal from the takes the signals from the signal post and also in the track, and if the driver of the train crosses that point, it automatically first warns him to reduce his speed. If he still does not reduce his speed, it applies the brakes itself. So this is called the train protection and warning system. We have the the anti-collision devices which we have put up, especially at gates. So these are all snake. Then we have what we call the block proving axle counter. See, originally when the trains were few, the station master, you would have all seen, after every station passes, he comes out, he has to physically ensure that the last vehicle, that's normally the guard's van, has passed, and then only he will go and clear the signal for the next train. So we try to make computerize that. We have the block proving axle counter, which will count the minute a train enters the section. It will count, say suppose there are 26 coaches in it. It will count the number of axles which are moving over the track. So it's 26 axles in, and automatically when it passes the next station, the minute the 26 axles are counted out, it automatically permits you to clear the signal. So it saves to that extent that much of time, because after each thing the station master had to go, check, come back and then change the signal. Today, the minute the axle counter gives clearance, he can do it. We also have what we call the data logger. Like all of you would have seen the, like a control in the air control and all these things. This is a thing which is recording every movement of the signal, the train, the coach, every small movement, the speed on every centimeter of the track is being recorded in real time. And it also has a digital representation in case of this thing. In fact, today I have just come from, I don't know whether you remember, on the 5th of May, there was this side collision in Patabiram, where a train, Kerala Express rammed into the side of the EMU. The Commissioner of Railway Safety is here for the inquiry. So in fact, I was there, and when you think of working like this, we were there from 11:30 to 2:30 in the morning, because went to the site to see whether all the rules were followed. So we all rushed off to the site. This is a kind of thing. So for us, what we are trying to do is, with whatever is the money we have, using the ingenuity, the human ingenuity, we are trying our best to make maximum amount, whatever we can, out of it. And of course, in the ticketing side, you will know what all we are doing. In terms of, you have this e-ticketing, which has become very popular. And as I was just talking with somebody, all our systems, whether it is a safety system, whether it's a block proving axle counter, whether it's a data logger, whatever it is today successful in our organization only because it apes and mirrors a manual system. So eventually, whatever you may say, a system, a computerized system, a computer, is not as smart as the human mind. A human mind knows the consequences and factors enough for the consequences. Our passenger reservation system today is the most robust system in the world, only because it is based on the foundation of a manual system, where everything had to be recorded in at least 3 registers. Instead of the registers, you have files in the computer today. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. If you look at the architecture of the software, nothing has changed from the manual system. Similarly, whether it's a data logger or the block proving counts, it's all is based on our extremely, very, very strong systems which the railways adopt, and that is why today we still survive. I mean, that is the one reason why we still survive. And today, I think our accident rate is among the lowest in the world today, only because of this. So just before I conclude, I just like to show you a few things. I think I can be loud enough. I like to operate it from there. Okay, I think since it's coming like this is what a panel in our control of a thing looks like. Now this will give you exactly the description of a station. These are the lines which are coming in. These are the loop lines. This is the up line, the down line. These are the thing, and and a station master today will sit here and he will operate those knobs. And he did not go earlier. He has to go to the lever and then pull the lever and change it the point. That thing. So instead of doing that, he does it using the panel. Today the panel is also getting replaced by a huge LCD monitor, which is both, you have a keyboard operation as well as a touchscreen operation. So whatever he does today by changing the knob, he can also do it by using the touchscreen. Okay, this again may look like an ancient contraption, but it is, believe me, it's one of the most fail-safe thing. This will all tell you that if he changes it from this, the knob from this to that, that means the train is moving towards there. So the signals behind is clear now to, nobody else can go into that section, but a train can come into the earlier station. These are all part of the same thing. How do you, wait, go back. I just wanted to show you this because I don't know how many of you would have seen this. To me, this remains one of the most fascinating documents we hold in the railways. Okay, this is what we call the control chart. And in a day, you just see, this is how a controller manually plots this. You have the stations going there. This is Arakonam, Katpadi, you see Jolarpet, and this is the time. Each one of these lines represents a train which is running. This is in a single line, it represents a train. Whenever you see like this, when you see a horizontal line, that is a train stopping. So today, this is for each day, every section, every movement. we have one of these things. This is what it looks like. And the reason I wanted to show it to you is that, the amount of information we can glean from this. Like if there is any problem, if we find that the train has lost time, the first thing we ask is, please bring the control chart. And the minute we see this control chart, we will know exactly. If he is supposed to go between, say, Jolarpet to Katpadi and the section speed is, say, 80 kilometers and there are no other cautions on the way, it should take X minutes. If a person has taken X plus 20, he is questioned because he has not gone up to the full potential. So this is our, what we call, our base document on which we run the trains. This is the same thing. This is, I'll tell you, this is in a single line. This is what, it's a single line because you can only have trains in one direction. This is what it looks like. This is just to show you very, very briefly. Tell me if I am trying to, if I am exceeding my time. If you like me to stop, I can stop now. Okay. Now this is how our signaling. See, you see the train. Everything in front of the train is green. That means he's got proceed. The minute he crosses the first signal, it goes back to red because nothing else can come into that section there. The rest are green. He crosses the second one, it goes to yellow. That means a person can come at restricted speed up to that signal. He should be prepared to stop at the signal. So this is how we do our okay, what I was telling you earlier, this is how a single line looks like. That is a loop line, and those little white things which are there, which look like lines coming out with blocks, they are what we call the sand humps. What happens is, when suppose we are receiving a train onto the loop, we set the points towards that. Just in case the train overshoots, he will not come into the running line. He will go and he'll derail in those sand humps. So these are the things like safety which we. It could be boring for some of you, but for me it is. This is life and bread and butter for me. So this is what happens when it's a double line. Yeah, I think that's about all. I have not bought too many things. The rest of it I just showed you what all these things look like. So. So ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, we are aware as railways that a lot needs to be done, but I think everybody should be aware that a lot is being done, and that is something which not many people appreciate, because what is seen is, as I told you when I started off with, the dirty stations, the crappy food. I mean, that is what is perceived by people. This is almost like, I always compare it, when you see the duck above water, you just see absolutely calm, movement. But below, the duck is paddling for its life almost, it's a thing to move. So the railway is almost like the duck, which appears to be very impervious to everybody, it appears to be insensitive, it appears to be a lot of things. But every moment, we are thinking on what can be done to better, because like everybody else, this is our profession, this is our bread and butter. We owe it not to the salaries we draw, but we also owe it to the nation, because we have been mandated to be the transporters. So, I only hope that I have tried to demystify a bit of what is happening, and also take away a bit of the myths to say that nothing is happening in the railways. And if I have even converted 2-3 people, I will say job well done today. Thank you very much.
You are not sitting down.